Welcome to the Fantasy Football Clown Show. I'm your host, the Fantasy Clown, along with Trader Dan, coming to you 2024. The season is beginning, and we thought it would be really cool as we come to you with new studios this year to maybe break down a little bit of Dan's success and what he does in preparation for game one, week one. And I'm just going to enjoy a beer here and ask him some questions. So, I've gotten the party started. I mean, it's a Thursday night, but we're going to drink early this year, on Thursday nights with football happening. And, we have games tomorrow, games on Sunday. And so as we start here, I'm going to play a little bit of some ladder bets. So I'll even pick Dan's brain a little bit and see by the time we have this, we'll know if we even want anything in our ladder bets. But I played two different players, Dan, and kind of put $30 on each of them, and figured we'll see what happens and see what that looks like. And then this year in our Clownheads leagues, we're going to actually play a DraftKings $10 rendition. So if you're part of the community, you get to play in that. And then we also did a survivor pool as well. So excited about having it looks like $1,300 in the survivor pool. So 26 entries. And so that's pretty exciting as well. But without further ado, I guess I want to dig into Dan's teams. And I think we're going to start with an 8-team league that Dan hosts each year. It's a redraft league. And Dan, how many years have you won this league? I know it started in 2019, right? Or 2018?
Yeah. So this league's a little different. We have, our annual payout at the end of the year, but we also do a $25 payout each week for the highest score. For the most part, with the exception, I believe, of like 1 year, I've gotten at least my money back in every year. And I actually, believe it or not, only won it once, finished second a couple times. And but I was always in the money with the $25 a week payouts. I figured out a way to score a lot of points. I just don't know necessarily if I figured out how to win it at the end. But we started, how we started this league. It was a local league with some buddies from work and a couple other fantasy football friends. And as they have moved on, we've kind of extended it out to some other people, so, across the country. Some other friends I had that had moved away, and we kind of use this league more as a just stay in touch with some of our buddies and stuff like that we don't necessarily always get to talk to, throughout the year. That, fantasy football kind of brings us all back together. So it's kind of why this league is really still going. And I'm excited to see where it goes this year.
Well, and I think, one of my favorite things about this particular league is this is the first time I ever played on Sleeper. And so, this league kind of has that fascination to me that it's my longest Sleeper league. And was it 2018, Dan, or was it 2019 that this?
I think it was 2019.
And so, but still, we're what, 6 years into this thing now. So that's pretty exciting. And 5 years of champions. And I really, in 8 teams, I never do well here because I feel like it's just a waiver wire fiasco. And they have to wake up Thursday morning at 3 a.m. East Coast time and set your alarm in order to 3:01 to get your waiver claims in or some shenanigans. So
it's different.
Is a little bit wild west.
You're going to earn your $25 in this league.
And I guess I try to do things way different. Last year, I drafted my team. I did 3 receivers in a row, and this year I think I just did it a little bit different after running back. So, Dan, how do you build your team? What do you do? And then, more importantly, what do you do? Because I think you just kind of churn your team and get ready for the playoffs. And so, what do you in this particular, short benches and short, starters, only 8 players? What do you look at when you're drafting this team? And it's always probably challenging to draft with people you kind of know their tendencies, but they also know yours. So.
Yeah, it is. And, I have a very different mindset when it comes to this type of league because it is a 3 running back league. And that makes it difficult. It's 1 quarterback, only 8 teams. So really it defies of what most fantasy football leagues are and really what the NFL is, where we put more value on the running backs than any other position. I guess back in 2019 when we started, the super flex was just starting to come into play, or at least in my leagues anyways. And So we'd always played one quarterback. And, I played in a deep league prior, and I didn't really care that, like, you go to the waivers and it's like there's just nobody there. So I wanted to create a league where you can win based off of picking off the waivers. You can get guys that they can get you 20 if need be. You just got to be able to pick the right guys. So I think a little bit of skill goes into that. But when I built my team here, I did it similar how you did it, Ed. We went for the running backs early and often, kind of held off on the quarterbacks to the later rounds. I was able to scoop Jordan Love up late, which I felt was probably as good a steal as I was going to get at the quarterback position for starting quarterback that late in the draft. And then later in the draft, I tried, picking out guys that, Trey Palmer, stuff like that could, or not Trey Palmer, Josh Palmer, who could potentially have, big returns on a late investment pick. And then I did something untraditional. I went and got 2 defenses, which I normally don't do. I really like the Baltimore defense, just not tonight. So I went and picked up the Giants defense. I feel that they may not have the greatest football team, but I do think that they did enough on defense where they're going to give Sam Darnold and the Vikings some fits. I think they can cause some turnovers. I think they can get a lot of sacks. Sam Darnold really hasn't done anything to prove that he's a worthy starting quarterback. So I kind of attack that way, and I'm hoping that, in a close game, that the defense is what gets me to the win this week.
Gotcha. Are you picked to win this week? Or are you?
It's like 50-50. I mean, it's like within a point or two projection.
Do you worry about that when you look at it, especially week 1? Do you worry about who's picked to win? Or
no, not at all.
I'm picked to lose. I'm picked to lose this week, but I'm looking at my team and I'm like, just like you, I have Anthony Richardson as my quarterback, and he might be terrible, but he could be a slate buster. And I waited till the end. I might have been the last guy to pick a quarterback or about that, I wasn't too excited about it, but
it's just when you look at a guy like, I can get a starting running back right now, or I can go get a quarterback that may be able to help me a little bit more, but then I'm going to be depleted on running backs because they go quick. When you need to start 24 of them a week, 32 of them start. Time you get injuries and bye weeks, and some people are starting third string running backs, and I felt that if I could late in the season avoid that and have 3 starting running backs throughout the year, that I just give myself that little advantage over the opponent.
Now, do you use your IR spots in this league? There's 2 IR spots. Do you use them, or are you kind of?
If Bijan goes down with a blown knee and he's 6 weeks or 4 to 6 weeks or whatever, I throw him on my IR. I don't drop him. Then I try to scoop up Tyler Algier, which I did already, scoop him up. I try to scoop up a guy, and replace him. But it's a redraft. It's such a deep free agent pool that's still in there that you can pull like Brock Purdy off the waiver wire for a game. So it probably should be a little deeper 8 team, but it's just tradition, and it's the way it's
that's how it is. No, I guess why I asked you that is I'm always very slickly trying to always keep 2 running backs on my IR. That can come back and help me. So this year I have Mitchell from Baltimore, and I have Brooks from Carolina, and I'm just kind of holding them and saying, okay, that's not important. And then I do have less running backs on my bench than normal, but I have 3, and then the 5 running backs in my lineup, so I've got 8 plus those 2 for 10. So I kind of always am looking to have between 10 and 12 running backs on my team, just to make sure that I'm hedging, because I feel like that's like you said, everywhere else you can just go get tight ends and quarterbacks. So I shuffle them around doesn't matter. And I've kind of this week I played the defense of Minnesota, so I guess we're both thinking that nothing's good's gonna come out of that Minnesota Giants game. I don't know. I streamed defenses in this league, and I just kind of picked up the matchup and said, I think Daniel Jones can throw about 4 picks. So, I'm going to go with Brian Flores and the fact that he's a good defensive coordinator. They'll have him ready, I guess, is theory. But what's your next team? As we look through some of these teams, Dan.
Okay. So as we get going, we'll be going into the clown head. Oh, my family business team. Okay, so this team here, as you know, this is a team that Ed had a guy that had dropped out of the league or forgot to pay or wouldn't pay or something, and he calls me up because he knows I just love these orphans, and gives me a team in a one quarterback super flex team with no quarterbacks, and I came in with a 2-year plan, how to get better. It was loaded with talent, but it didn't have the quarterbacks. And I ended up making some trades, getting some players, drafting really well, understanding league rules, probably to an extent, before most other people kind of caught on to what the rules really were, and ended up making multiple trades, 2-for-1, 3-for-1s, and getting higher end players, and really built myself a powerhouse. I mean, I won this league 4 years in a row after taking over an orphan, and won it the first year. And actually, in 4 years, I'm the only one that's won. But as you look, I've got a combination of some veterans with, some young guys with Josh Allen, Saquon Barkley, Bijan, and then my wide receiver crew with CD Jefferson and St. Brown. Little aging with Travis Kelce at the tight end position, but I do have Trey McBride waiting to for when Kelce hangs it up. And I'm still young at my running backs with Brees Hall, Olave as a wide receiver, Buffalo's defense. Kyler Murray is my number 3 quarterback. Daniel Jones still sitting there.
So you're not going to use them. You're not going to use a quarterback in the super flex. You have Olave there.
Yeah, I might switch it at the end. Who knows? We'll see. I'll probably end up with Kyler Murray there, to be honest with you. But or even Daniel Jones. I actually really like Daniel Jones' matchup this week. I know he's been getting a lot of flack, but the last 2 times he played Minnesota, I mean, he lit them up for over 300 yards, and I mean, absolutely crushed it for fantasy owners. And I'm not super high on Daniel Jones, but I just think that he's got Minnesota's number, and I think it continues again this weekend.
Now, keep in mind, this is a 10-team league, so as you guys are seeing all these stout players, I mean,
yeah, we all have them.
It's a great team, and it's won 4 years in a row, so I don't want to downplay it, but I feel like the talent is, there's on the top, and so when I look at my 2 quarterbacks, for instance, I've got Lamar and Joe Burrow starting,
right?
And I've got the tight end room of Pitts and Laporta, and I mean, everybody's got studs here as well,
yeah.
And this was. Before we understood that, deep leagues somewhat, really hone in skill. So this is kind of one of my home leagues that I run and host each year. Mm-hmm. That's, a dyno. And so anyway, but Dan, yeah, you've took over before the league started and you won every year. So, you got to run it back it looks like your team is just unstoppable this year too, but we'll see.
A lot of it's got to do with injuries. Yeah, I gave up a lot of depth for forgot who I went and got. Maybe Bijan. I gave up a lot of depth for Bijan Robinson. I went with Kyren Williams. I gave up 3 Travis Etienne, 2-3 guys that really could help with injuries. So I'm banking on Bijan with a big year to try to run it back. I don't normally like to make that trade now or before the season starts. I like to make it right before the playoffs, but I just felt like, if I get Bijan, and it is what it is, and we are who we are, and we're just going to go with it.
Cool.
So,
what's your next?
So my next team, I think we're going to be getting into Clown Heads, which are really my teams that I like to really talk about. So this Clown Head 10, this is a new league that we just started up. As I was building this team, when you draft, you don't know, do I draft for now? Do I draft for the win? Do I try to do a combination of the two? So what I did with this, and my buddy and I, we actually kind of built this team together. We tried to get guys that could pay off this year with big seasons and still kind of pay dividends down the road. So, as you see, I went with Brock Purdy. A lot of people don't realize Brock Purdy was the number 6 quarterback fantasy football last year. I think he slides underneath the radar quite often, and you see a lot of other guys go ahead of him. I like the fact that the guy's tough as nails. He's going to play. He's not going to do something stupid to get him suspended, and he's consistent. He might not give you the 48 that, somebody could give you, but he's definitely giving you 20 to 25. and chances are he's not getting injured and coming out of the game. You know how I feel about James Cook. Love the guy. I think this is a big year for him. We drafted the number 2 pick in the draft. We ended up with Marvin Harrison with that pick. I think that's just a fantastic spot for him. He's still young. He's still going to produce. He's going to give you a chance to win. Jaden Reed really is kind of our wild card here with the wide receiver position. He had a great showing last year. He came out strong late. Just kind of hope he carries it over. You know what I mean? And you just hope that success is still there. Obviously, Trey McBride is, up and coming stud. And then we kind of get into the flexes and stuff like that. We end up getting Tony Pollard and kind of like a throw-in part of a trade, which put the trade over the top for the better. We took it, figured we could use him in our flex position. And then we got some waiver guys, Colby Parkinson and John Smith, who we were able to scoop up off the waivers. I kind of had a hunch that these guys were going to be starting well before anyone else in the league kind of knew that. So we ended up throwing a couple bucks on them and ended up getting them. And as you can see, they kind of become a big part of our team right now. And then, as we keep moving down, Cole Kmet, obviously, is a bona fide starter, especially in clown heads. Zamir White, who I think is poised to be have a fantastic season. I mean, I think it goes kind of unnoticed on how he ended the season for Oakland, or Vegas, only because they weren't a very good football team and their team was kind of in shambles, but he was the one bright spot. They didn't bring anyone really in. Madison, who's more of a depth piece, and the kid out of the 6th round that they drafted, Loabe. So I feel Zamir White's their guy. It's the guy that's going to get the ball. It's the guy that is going to be their go-to. And then we come back with Caleb Williams, Russ Wilson, who obviously is now on the injury report. So we have Baker to throw in there. We did draft Bo Nix in this draft, and I was able to trade him for what I project to be an early first next year with Blake Corum, which I thought was a good trade for us. We ended up drafting Bo Nix in the 2nd round, get a next year's first for him with Blake Corum. That was a good pickup for us. Traquan Thornton probably shouldn't be on most rosters. For some reason, he's still on this one. I haven't had time to get rid of it. Wandale, Josh Palmer, Jamison Williams, Luke McCaffrey, DeMarcus Robinson, Joanne Jennings, those guys, you just hope that a couple of them step it up this year and, you can fill them in for your starting spot. But
are you going to look to make moves at this time of the year, or are you kind of sitting back and watching it, how it goes?
No, in the standalone leagues like this, I am not a buyer or a seller. I'm a watcher. I see how the league is going. I see what my chances are to get into the playoffs. If I can get in, I can win. If I can't get in, I try to sell. And I usually get a pretty good understanding on if I'm getting in or not. Usually a little bit faster than most people because I do a lot of studying weeks ahead, stuff like that. It's kind of how I gain slight advantages. So I feel like if I don't have a chance to get in, I'll be a seller. If I got a chance, I'll be a buyer. I did pick up an extra 1st round next year. I think it's going to be a pretty big piece, being what I believe is going to be an early first. So if there's a piece or two I can say, hey, I can go make an upgrade right before playoffs or right before the trade deadline, I'm going for it. If not, it is what it is. Like I said, I built young enough to where I could go ahead and do that. So my next team here is my Clown had 3. I kind of did this as a orphan draft or dispersal draft. It's a team that, it is what it is. Jordan Love, Tua, Josh Jacobs, James Cook. Like, I'm not a huge fan of Josh Jacobs only because, when a team that's not projected to win, he's getting older. Back to James Cook. I ended up scooping Lamb, Zay Flowers, Jaden Reed, Khalil Shakir, Mark Andrews, Pat Fairman, Tony Pollard, Gabe Davis. It's not a very strong team. Bryce Young, but the draft pick capital is still there. It's not a team I'm really sold on that I'm like spending a lot of time rebuilding. It's more like one of those things. If that opportunity presents itself to upgrade, I will. If the opportunity presents itself to sell, I will. It's just one of those things where, I'm stuck between a crossroads of, I don't really want to sell a bunch of players if I have a chance to win, but yeah, I don't feel like I have a chance to win. But as we move on to my last team in Clownheads, my Big 8U, this team I'm actually really excited for, and which is strange because I wasn't really that excited for it up until the draft this year, and some things fell my way. I was sitting at the number 2 pick. I was able to trade up to the 1 pick and grab Caleb. I felt that building around Caleb was probably going to be a better solution than building around Marvin Harrison with a team like this. So I end up getting Caleb. I come back. I have James Cook, Devontae Smith, Zay Flowers, Trey McBride. And then I ended up getting Tyreek Hill, a first, and something else for Deshaun Watson. And I felt like that was a golden opportunity to really kind of unload Deshaun Watson. Whether he has a great year or not, I just don't like rooting for the guy. So to me, it was a great opportunity to get rid of him. Still sticking with it, Zamir White. I got young guys, George Pickens, K. Dotton, Brock Purdy. And I got Daniel Jones in my super flex. But here in this league, I end up keeping Bo Nix. But what really excites me is as I work my way down, I'm just deep. I'm deep with depth with Zach Charbonnet, Tajee Spears, Keon Coleman, Brian Thomas, Trey Tucker, Luke McCaffrey, Ricky Pearsall, Khalil Shakir, Michael Mayer, and Tucker Kraft. I mean, these guys are very, very important pieces when you start getting into bye weeks and injuries that I can just start plugging in, guys who can easily go out and give me double digits consistently. And then, my taxi doesn't really have much there. But what really excites me about this team is 2025, I actually have a little extra draft capital. But my 2026, I've got one first, 3 seconds, 2/3. So I really have some capital to move if this team is able to compete next year, even this year. If it's able to compete, I got the capital to really go ahead and with some of these young guys, I got to go get myself some players that could put me into the big tournament at the end. So that's a team that I'm more intrigued into doing some trades, stuff like that, because as you know, that's that league. You got to win. You got to win to stay in it. You know what I mean? You start losing two, 3 games.
We had you projected as the number 2 team in the division, in Division U, when we did our preview show last night. So, we kind of see you coming on, and that's what the analytics say. So you must be right on the cusp there of being able to really do well with.
Yeah. It kind of fell into place for me. I mean, as far as I'm concerned, it was, like I said, a team I really wasn't overly excited for, and then it just kind of fell in my lap. And I actually forgot to go over my other team with you, Ed, is my Elite 8E, if I can find it.
Yeah, that's a team that I guess we want. I figured you were ending with that one. And
I would if I could find it. Let's see. Been deleted, Ed. All right. Here we go. Elite 8.
Yeah, there you go.
So this particular team is probably my favorite team that I've ever got to build, play, whatever. Because this one took the most work. Obviously, I inherited this team at 5 o'clock in the morning. It was round 14 of a startup draft. I had 4 players, 0 first-round picks, 0 tight ends, and 0 quarterbacks. So when you go to look at this team, you see how much work I put into this, and endless hours building this team, trading, making, trying to maneuver, hitting the jackpot with Brock Purdy on the waivers. Stuff like that. But if you go down, I mean, I'm just deep in every position and got so much depth that, and this team made it to the Final Four. I finished 3rd out of the 96 last year. Basically got most of my team back, but I just completely revamped my wide receiver corps, which is not normally a play I have in Clownheads. But I when I got to the Final Four, I realized if you don't get stud receivers, I mean, we all have stud tight ends. We all have the stud quarterbacks, but it's the stud receivers that get you over the top. And so I'm coming back with Jalen Hurts, Brock Purdy, obviously is my 1-2. Bijan Robinson, Rashad White is my 2 running backs. But now when I go into my wide receivers, I now have Marvin Harrison and CeeDee Lamb starting for me, where I did not have those guys last year. I went and made some big trades this summer. I actually just recently pulled in Lamb. Was able to do some things. And as you just go down my list, I mean, Trey McBride, David Njoku, James Cook, Zamir White, And then I sit back with Jaden Daniels, Caleb Williams, Josh Dobbs is my backup to Brock Purdy. Kenny Pickett is my backup to Jalen Hurts. Daniel Jones is my number 5. Algier, in case anything happens to Bijan. Then I go Jalen Hyatt, Wan'Dale Robinson, Zay Flowers, who's, to have him on your bench is nice to say that. Romeo Doubs, Demarcus Robinson, Michael Wilson, Khalil Shakir, Michael Mayer, Cole Kmet, Mike Gesicki, Conklin, Danny Bellinger, Pierce on my IR. My taxi is, what you normally see out of a taxi, some guys that you hope do well for you. And then what really interests me is I'm still sitting, even though I made some big trades with a couple 25 firsts, a couple 26 firsts, a couple extra, second round picks in 26. So I'm really, I put myself in a position here to where I can still upgrade if I need to, and really not mortgage much of my future. But I normally make my trades around trade deadline. I don't try to make them in August. But I just felt like, with a guy like CeeDee Lamb, I had to go get him. I have to get out to a quick start. And I think he puts me at that point where I feel pretty confident that each week I could go out and get myself a pretty good chance to win.
So when I'm looking at your teams, though, Dan, I guess one of the questions I have, and I spend a lot of time, maybe worthwhile, maybe not, but really setting up like today was a big day for me to make sure that my taxi squad had players that I want to hold for the year, but I probably won't use for the year unless I decide I want to use them for the year because it's a reason for it to do. And then I saw that, and then I'm always trying to max out like my taxi and my IR as much as I can. Like I'm always looking for as close to 40 players on my roster as I can. Now, I don't have injured players when they're not available, but I guess what I'm always trying to do is make sure that I'm maximizing or reducing the player pool as low as I can. And like today, you probably will see as the weekend goes, I'll come in and pop a bunch of backup quarterbacks to just have them. And like you have Dobbs now. All of a sudden, Dobbs was reduced to the third string role today, and Brandon Allen's going to be the backup to Purdy for at least this week, and basically beat him out in the contest. And I'm like, okay, so Brandon Allen's available a lot of places. So boom, I'm in there getting Brandon Allen's, as many places as I have roster spots for. And I do a lot of that. Like tonight, I'm sitting with Carson Wentz and Tyler Huntley almost everywhere. Now, I know Huntley's the third string tonight, but that's basically because he just got, in my opinion, he got signed, about a week ago. So I do think he will be the second string, here pretty soon. So that's kind of like I'm hedging it just in case a guy like Lamar or Pat Mahomes has been really injury. He's been free of injuries, but you just never know if it's going to be the Aaron Rodgers 4 plays in, and all of a sudden we have that. And I guess I looked last year, 62 quarterbacks started in an NFL game, different quarterbacks for the 32 teams, and then the year before 66 started. So a lot of quarterbacks starting, and I run my quarterback spreadsheet, which I think in clown heads is very much like the NFL. If you don't have quarterbacks, you don't have a team. And, that's kind of what I like about it is that, it's kind of defies the odds, kind of how old school fantasy was, where we just fade quarterbacks, and we elevate running backs. And the NFL basically casts away running backs and elevates quarterbacks. And I kind of feel like, hey, this at least plays in the same game that, we do the same thing. But 2 quarterback changes from August 1st to week 1 that I just noticed already. On August 1st, Aiden O'Connell was the starting quarterback for the Raiders, and now we have Gardner Minshew. And on August 1st, the starting quarterback was Jared Stidham for the Denver Broncos, and now we have Bo Nix. So we kind of have 2 low-key but no injury changes yet this year. And, just kind of highlighting that because it'll be interesting to see how many in week 2 when we meet again are there. But I'm just kind of wanting a little feedback on, do you look at the rosters, or are you just focused on, let me get the best 12 guys or starting guys that I possibly can and try to get that lead and just jump out ahead?
Yeah, a lot of it depends on the leagues. Like I said, the standalone leagues, I play it as, hey, I just got to be in the top 6 to get in.
Yeah.
I'm not going to go crazy. I'm not going to mortgage my future. I'm not going to make big trades. If I lose 3 in a row, yeah, am I concerned? Absolutely. May I make a trade to try to get ahead? Absolutely. But am I, selling out? No. But if I get to 1 and 5, and all of a sudden, yeah, okay, my team stinks. I gotta start unloading, because there's only so much people can buy. You know what I mean? Then they're out of capital or whatever I'm looking for. But in the big leagues, yeah, I'm coming out of the gate, baby. I don't want a couple of losses early, because I had that last year, and it was trade after trade, week to week, making trades. Luckily, they worked out for me. I didn't get burnt by them, but I was making trades just to win for the week in a dynasty football league, and it's not really the best thing to do. I just got fortunate that it was enough to get me into the final top 3, and it was young enough talent where I probably wouldn't make that trade week 1 through 5 or whatever. But, when I started realizing I need to win 6 games in a row to get it in the playoffs.
In that league where you want to sell Josh Jacobs, I do play in that league. So if you want to send over an offer there, just keep that in mind that, as we go, I'm a Josh Jacobs, he's one of my prodigal kids, I think.
I better sell him before tomorrow morning when he blows his ankle out or ACL.
Hopefully not. But yeah, I mean, then I'm always, so I also don't have very much panic in me. That's one of the things that I think has made me a little bit better player. Is I just kind of let him ride out, and I try to make so you make a lot of trades. I make very few trades, and as leagues continue to go on, I always kind of smile and say my teams just keep getting better and better. And I look at the teams that I started up in 2020, and I'm like, wow, these teams are really taking off. They're teams that have Brees Hall and Bijan as the 2 running backs, and have top end quarterbacks, and have the McBride and Pitts kind of tight ends, and that kind of thing. And so I feel like just staying the course has worked well for me, and just kind of saying, hey, I'm going to out draft people. I'm going to just out waiver claim people. That's, and like you said, you got Brock Purdy off of waivers. Like that's kind of how I churn my teams. I mean, I'm making waiver moves all the time. And of course, 65 teams, there's a lot of waiver moves, but it's, my waivers are something I really, dig into, but that's kind of, what I do also at this time of the year. So you're just kind of sitting back and ready for some football tonight. Is there anything that you're playing in the sports wagering tonight?
I'll log onto my account and throw some bets out that probably make no sense and lose $50 or whatever. But I cut way back on my gambling once I had my second child. Daycare, diapers, formula, I got all expensive.
I took a bath in baseball this summer, so I basically had to hit all the, when I was logged in today, to I had to re-up my fingerprint. They didn't even like me, so it was pretty fun. But I did play Bateman's yardage tonight, and so that's I decided I'm going to play one person from each team, so just to kind of have some fun. So I laddered Bateman and his yardage, so I'm cheering for that. And then also Justin Watson. I know probably there's not very many people that think Justin Watson, but I got a 25, a 40, and a 50 on his yardage, and
hoping for a big play.
And I do think that he's going to be the Hollywood Brown replacement.
Yeah,
is what I'm told. So, and as most people that know me know, I talk to people in the Chiefs organization. So anyway, I know a little bit there, but I could be, sometimes I get wrong information by knowing something there too. So, and I try not to give away scheme, but that seems to be the guy that they're playing there in the Hollywood Brown, even though they're not the same player. It just, that's,
but 80% of snaps is 80% of snaps, which is
and over 50. I think I got plus 900. So plus 900 over 50 yards. I mean, it was worth.
So what you're saying? I should be tallying off of the Ed Smith bet tonight.
I don't know. It was just kind of funny. It was plus 450 on FanDuel and plus 900 on DraftKings. So
Ah,
that just looks silly just in and of itself, to be honest. I mean, like that difference looks silly to me. So I was like, wow, okay. Obviously shopping the bets matters. So that was one I did check. I sort of I've heard good things about Pacheco over the yards too, but I just didn't do it. It's, you have to decide what you're going to do.
right.
But, yeah. So that's what we have. We'll come back to you next week. Dan, I'd love for you to just break down I have a couple of teams I'd love for you to break down and just kind of a sample so that, if we do have other people that watch the show, maybe they'll also look for you to break down their teams and how they can, make a move in a league. And so, we'll
Absolutely
plan that next week and take a peek at a couple teams. I'll make sure that it's not leagues that you're in so that you won't try to beat yourself.
All right. I'll help them out.
Yeah. So
you need to trade Hart, CeeDee Lamb.
Yeah, I bet. So
and get his first round pick for it. He's going to be bad.
Right. So that's kind of what we have. But for now, it's been good to catch up again and bring you guys all into the room as we chat football and good luck tonight, Dan. Get some fast starts. I have some cool leagues. I'm watching Mark Andrews tonight too, so I want to see him do well. And actually, my other longtime league, I have Lamar. So yeah, it'll be a fun night for sure. Nice. So good luck, and
good luck to everyone too. I hope,
I'm sure we'll talk over the weekend, and we'll come back to you live next week as well. So long for now.
Bye, guys.